Alrighty, welcome back to the AHA podcast. I'm your host, Anastasia.
And I'm your host, Hannah.
And for today's episode, it's going to be a little bit different than the last two episodes we've put out. This episode, we decided to do an episode where you guys kind of got to know each other. Know each other? What? No. We're just going to... You get to know each other.
We decided it was
the entire
time.
audience.
Yeah, it was time. Yeah. It was, so know people. Yeah.
Yes.
We decided it was finally time to explain what's going on here and who we are.
And why you should listen to any of the opinions we have. Sorry, not to get to know each other. I as in I don't know. When I said that, I was like, what? I'm sorry. To get to know us a little bit better. My bad. My brain's all over the place. But yeah, so that's gonna be the premise of this episode. Yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about ourselves. We're gonna talk about how we met. Talk a little bit about what we like in film and TV, so you kind of get to know us also through our taste in movies and TV, if that makes any sense. But regardless, let's get into it. We are gonna keep doing the format we've been doing with trailer drops, news, that kind of stuff. Yeah, Hannah, you want to take it away with the news?
The only news that I care about is that I saw on my YouTube recommended that spoiler, that Freddie and Carly are finally together after years of iCarly and the reboot, that they're actually legit together. Because this new season, and not because I'm watching it, just because I keep tabs, this new season is they pretend that they're dating for her to get more followers or whatever she's doing in that new season. And then I saw the clip that was they're finally legit together, and they have their little moment where he's being your friend isn't a consolation prize. Basically I'm so happy to be your friend, and I don't want this to ruin, I don't want to lose you as a friend. And then they kiss.
Wow.
So now you know that, I used to watch iCarly like any kid growing up in
Oh my gosh, that was
the early 2000s.
That was top tier.
That was a good show. That was a good
really
show.
Good show. Yep.
That was a good
great.
show.
That one, Drake and Josh.
Anything with Miranda Cosgrove.
But interesting. Yeah, that did pop up. I don't know if it was, I think it was on my YouTube. It was like an ad, and I was like, I can't even skip this. But yeah, no, I saw that too, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, because the reboot they made of that show, was it just one season?
Or no, this is I think this is their second season, and I swear they're going to get a third season.
Interesting. Also, the season 3 of Witcher has dropped. I have not seen it. It's on my list because it looks really good, and it's right up my alley. So it's added to my list. I know I'm super late to the entire game of The Witcher. I know people have been talking about it for forever, and it's a video game, so it's been up for a long time. But yeah, no, I think this is Henry Cavill's last season because he's leaving the show, from what I know. And I was like, oh, interesting. So what then? Are they gonna recast? Are they gonna not make?
Yeah, they did. You know who's gonna be recasted as?
Is it one of the Hemsworths?
Luke Hemsworth.
Yes. Yeah. Interesting. I mean,
but
listen.
Let's wait.
I
don't know, because he hasn't acted in. I think the last thing was that thing called The Game or something with Christoph Waltz and something on Amazon thing. But or was it on Tubi or something?
It's also I remember the most vivid recast that they did, which I will never forget in my entire life. In The Fosters, bitch, when Jake T. Austin was playing Jesus, and then they fucking casted Noah Centineo, and they're just starkly different looking people, and they just played it off like he just changed so much in the wrestling camp. I said, that's a whole
Yeah,
different
he
human
like.
being, but I was like, what? So then now I think, now I think when they recast actors, I just think it's gonna be as ridiculous as, as in the Fosters, because that shit, I was like, no, ain't no way y'all trying to pull it off like that. But they did it, and so the show kept going. So,
Also, I want to retract because I looked up and this is season 3 of iCarly that just came out
mm,
of the reboot.
I don't know. Season 3. No, I don't know. Because I think I thought that it was a movie. I don't know what the fuck my brain
Hmm.
thought when that
The Zoe
first
102
initial
is
trailer.
gonna be a movie.
Okay, maybe that's how I
That
got
that
confused.
that reunion is, yeah, it's gonna be a movie.
Ah,
So
okay, but
yeah, you gotta keep up on your
girl,
Nickelodeon
I gotta keep up on those
reboots.
reboots. Yeah.
I did. Did you see the trailer for Poor Things with
No, I did
Emma
not.
Stone? I'm really
Mm-mm.
excited because I like that director and writer, like that combo. They did like The Favorite. The director did The Killing of a Sacred Deer. The writer is the
Yeah,
creator of The Great, which is on Hulu,
I
with Elle Fanning and
watched that
Nicholas.
show. That show's so good, so funny. I love that show.
So I'm excited, and I mean Emma Stone looks like she's gonna give like a phenomenal performance because she's basically playing like a woman Frankenstein type of
Right,
thing. So it's kind of
yes.
like
I
the
saw the photos and everything. I didn't I'll watch the trailer after we record this. Um but no, I saw the stills and everything. When did it let me see. When it dropped two
it came
days
out like a
ago.
few, yeah.
It looks really good though. I'm really okay, yeah, cool. I have to add that to my watch later. I don't even know. To my list of trailers to watch, but yeah, it looks really good. Also, her in really dark ass hair looks she looks great in dark hair.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And everybody looks great. Like it's interesting having the comedian Rami's in it from his
Mhm.
show Rami and who so like but everyone looks like William Dafoe. I mean you can't go wrong with William Dafoe and then Mark
He's
Ruffalo. Like
incredible,
everybody
yeah.
looks and because it's so like I don't know, like it's always so quirky, like with that director and writer, like so you know you're gonna like have a good weird time
Mhm.
watching it. Except Killing of a Sacred Deer, that was not a good time. I remember watching that in theaters. And it was like, okay, there's a shot in that movie that will stay with me for the rest of my life, but it just involves somebody, everybody being blindfolded, even the person who has a gun and is spinning around, and that's how they're gonna choose who dies. I was like,
Watch them
that's.
do that in
I
Yellow
mean,
Jackets.
that's equality where you're like, okay, it's not on. I don't know where everybody's sitting. Let me see who.
That's
But
true. So let's move on to, I guess, the main chunk of what this episode is gonna be, which is just kind of getting to know us a little bit more, which I think can be fun. Or you can skip this episode. I don't care. I just want to hear you talk about random shows and movies. You can skip. It's okay. Won't get offended. Um,
getting to know you. Sorry, we're not. That's copyrighted. We can't sing that song
it
here.
was less than, I think it's like 30 seconds you have or some shit
Oh,
like that for
okay.
copyright.
I
I don't
only
know.
know
I
so
think I
many
lied.
lines.
Um, but yeah, so let's kind of talk about ourselves, I guess. I guess we'll start with how Hannah and I met. And maybe kind of work back. We'll see how the flow of this is gonna go. So for those of
You
you
can
who
always fix it in post of what we said first or not. So
that's true. So for those of you who don't know how Hannah and I met, we met uh at university when we were in college. Which feels like a lifetime ago, honestly, because we also did go through college during the pandemic. So like the first year of college or first yeah, almost year of college was strictly online. Um and then we were allowed on campus after that, but we won't get into the logistics of that. Um Yeah, so we met in college. So I originally grew up in Ohio, the best state in the world. I'm kidding.
Ohio.
It's
Yeah.
okay. So I grew up in Ohio, and then I initially after high school went to Kent State. So if you're an Ohio local,
Woo.
you know Kent State. Um, it's an okay college. I'm kidding. I'm not talking about out of college. They're gonna come at my ass. Okay, they're gonna sue me or some shit. No, I went to Kent State. For theater performance because I'm an actor first. Is how I fell in love with this whole industry. So I did theater throughout all of high school. I also danced and for like 13 years, so that was kind of my gateway into knowing I always loved performing. And so yeah, so went to Kent State for theater performance. Was not liking it. And I don't think it's any fault to the college. I think it was just also I didn't feel like I was learning anything new that I didn't already know, which in my mind, if I was paying thousands of dollars to go to college, I should be learning something new that I didn't know. So in my mind, it didn't make sense for me to go. So I dropped out. And then, yeah, so I dropped out. And then after that, I had like a year gap year. I don't even know. It wasn't even a full year, whatever. Um, at that point, I traveled. I went to Los Angeles. I went to Greece. I went to other places in Europe, which was really fun. And then I got back from that trip, and my dad was like, "What the fuck are you doing with your life?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "I don't know," because my dad wanted me to go to college. He was very adamant about college. My mom was like, "Eh." She was like, "Whatever. Just do whatever you want." Um, but my dad really wanted me to go to college. I was like, "Dad, college is too expensive. I don't even want, for the career that I want to go into, I don't think necessarily I have to go to college." But
And you
then,
don't.
no, you don't. But then my, I guess, technical stepbrother went to, we didn't even name drop the university that we met at, Full Sail University. It's in Winter Park, Florida. Um,
Oh my, yeah, just give the whole.
I mean, I'm not gonna get the address. You can look it up
I
and
mean,
find the
you
address.
know where it is if you're familiar with Orlando area.
But
So we wanted to be as close to Mickey Mouse and Harry Potter as we could, so we chose that
not even Mickey Mouse
university.
girl, just Harry Potter. That was all I was looking
Drop in
for.
the comments if you too attended
Full
Boston
Sail.
University.
Yeah. Let's see how many alumni we get, or currently. I don't know. There could be people. Who knows? But anyway, yeah. My stepbrother went to Full Sail for graphic design, and then he sent me like the link or whatever, and I looked at it. I was like, I guess like this looks fun. Like I guess I could do this because I then at that point in my life, my gears shifted from performing in front of the camera and like on stage to wanting to write and direct and kind of be behind the scenes on it. So I've still always stayed in the same vein of the entertainment industry. It's just my perspective, I guess, has changed. Instead of wanting to portray characters, I wanted to write them and help actors get to um, great performances. But so yeah, applied to Full Sail, got in, and
Because
that's
if you apply and you pay
you
the
got
money, you
in
can get it.
easy. You just send like your name and where you're from, and they're like, "Cool, you're in." Anyway, so yeah, then I moved. I moved to Florida. I believe what this October
2020.
16th, 2020. 2020. October 16th, 2020.
October 16th. Yeah, it's my
Mm-hmm.
birthday. Now I remember too
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Because my class started October 26th, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
Um, so yeah, because I drove down to Florida, packed up my entire car of full of my life, and then drove down that 14-hour drive. And then I got there, I think, on the 17th or something, and moved into my apartment. Anyway, that's a little bit about how I got to Full Sail. Hannah, share
Oh
yours.
gosh. So, and if you obviously don't realize, so Full Sail's like a private art school. So we both ended
Very
up
much
doing
like
a bachelor's.
Victorious.
Yeah.
What is that school called,
um,
Victorious? I was gonna say Sky High.
my
That
brain
ain't
is
it.
not fully awake to know that yet. I don't
Okay, you keep
remember.
talking. Let me look it up.
Um, Also, that okay, I'll bring that up when I bring up that show because there's somebody in like the theater guy plays this character in another show, and his range is like you wouldn't think that was the same guy. But anyways, um,
Hollywood arts.
yeah, I clearly get off on tangent, so that's just welcome to the podcast. I'm like the dogs and up where it's like squirrel, and then sometimes I forget where we were coming back. So, but yeah, so we did film, so we went to film school. So if you got any hate on that, we
Also, let me
we
just
heard it all.
preface. Let me just preface. I know sometimes people are like, I went to film school, so I know everything. Bitch, no, you don't. And
Yeah, we know we don't know
but
everything,
also,
don't
yeah,
so
that's not. I don't. I just want to put that out there. If you've met some pretentious film schools people, we've met them too, and they're the worst. Um, and we're not like that. So yeah, sorry, just wanted to let you know.
yeah, we're not those pretentious people, but we just enjoy talking about what we like. So, um, yeah, so I'm actually older than Anastasia, but I do look, no, I'm just kidding. I think I do look
Are we gonna
younger,
drop
but
our ages or no? We can just say we're
no, I'm just
older.
saying, but they don't need to, I think I can just tell you I'm older than you and they
Okay,
can
go.
assume how older I am than you. Um, no, because then when I tell them how many gaps, you know what I mean, what I was doing with my life, and they're not like,
Like
you
what?
know.
That's true. Okay, yes, yes, yes.
So I graduated high school, and I wanted to um, go on a church mission for my church, which would have been like 18 months. Because I'm also religious, even though I cuss, but I can still like Jesus and cuss. So if you want to come for me, that's fine. And then you also see that I'm not a huge like Christian films, like this is my favorite films. And, they're all Christian. Because I'm like, that's a little too, I'm like, okay, let me not. So they don't come for me. There's some good Christian films, and maybe one episode I will make a list and be like, this was really good.
That'll be.
Um,
We'll make that a segment in an episode.
yeah. So anyways, I ended up getting like I got a great trip to go see because we both are huge Harry Potter fans to go see Harry Potter and the Cursed Child in London. Um, and that was always on my bucket list is to go to the UK. So I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay, let me postpone it because it's like from basically from a year from now. So I was like, oh, I can't really go do my mission. So then I ended up just working for a year and then I went, visited the UK, fell in love. So if you're from that region, hit the like button. And then I came back and then I did a church mission for a year and a half, which I absolutely loved. Like everybody I met, it was an amazing experience. I also kind of acted as a tour guide. So if you've ever been to Salt Lake City, let me know. And then while I was there, because, not that anybody was putting pressure on me, it was just like, okay, what are you going to do for school? And I had done some classes, but I was like, I don't know what I want to like. I was like, should I study business and be practical? Because like a business degree, you can really go for any. But I was like, but I'm not passionate about it. And like to get through the general eds and like those classes, I feel, I don't know, after going to school for something I'm passionate about, that changes your whole perspective because you actually will do the dumb little classes or the dumb assignments that you're like, where you're like, no, I'm here, I'm excited what I'm learning about. So I decided, oh my gosh, let me go to film school, like if I'm going to do it. And I even ran into people in Salt Lake City who were like, oh, my nephew went to Full Sail. So it was like coming up in my life that I was like, but I knew Full Sail because I'm a Floridian. I was born and raised in Florida. So I was very familiar with Full Sail. I'd heard the good, the bad, the ugly, and I was like, I don't know. And then it just seemed right. And out of all the odds, some girl from Ohio, some girl from Miami. We ended up starting exactly at the same time, which I was going to start earlier, but because of COVID, I was like, oh, let me push my start date, thinking it would be, but it didn't get better. Um, who would have thought? But then we met, and I love how you prefaced that it was like online only because Anastasia didn't come on
Yeah,
campus
no. I
for a
mean,
few
no.
months, so that's why we didn't meet each other right away, having been in
Hold
like
on. It was
the same
online.
class.
Okay, do not.
It was being on
But then
campus
there
was
was.
optional.
Thank you.
Was
Yes, you can preface that it
optional.
was optional. It was not mandatory. I did not skip. Well, later on, yeah, we did start to skip stuff, but whatever.
We,
I'm talking about not me and you. I'm talking about
yeah,
me and other people in that class. We were
yeah,
like,
I was gonna
we're not gonna
say,
stay in this
I
media class
graduated
this
top of
entire
our
time.
program because I attended all my class. No, I'm just kidding.
As
That's
you
not why,
should.
but
As you should. I was so proud of you, bro. I was like, yeah. Um.
yeah. And then I didn't even realize we're like, oh, before you walk here, you got it. And it was
Also,
like,
bro, I
okay,
walked
cool.
in with my cap and gown and everything, and they were like, I don't know what the fuck I was in line for. I don't know. I think tickets for
Mm.
whoever was coming, and she's like, okay, what's your name? And I gave her my name, and she's like, oh, you have like, bitch, what the fuck was that award? Like a teacher award for a certain class,
Oh, like a course award.
a
Yeah,
course award, like course director award or some shit like that. She's like, oh, you
yeah,
have
yeah.
that for like your project portfolio class, and I was like, what? I was like, wait, first of all, which project
Is it-
portfolio class was that? Because I don't remember taking it. But then also, like, how come they don't tell me that? Like, I love how we just got to graduation and they were like, oh, you have this award. And you're like, oh,
Because
okay.
they came out with a list of like, oh, what you guys got, so then you knew to get your chords or whatever, and so you knew like what you were getting. And they only put like four of us out of the program, and then it was like, what? And then you realize, wait, they're supposed to give an award for every course we've taken. So yeah, that didn't really add up, and then they didn't really have their stuff together. So very
It's a
last
little
minute,
bit
they
of
were
a
telling us
mess.
half of the stuff that like, oh wait, yeah, and everybody got these awards, and this is the award you got, and whatnot. So yeah. I will say this because it plays into why I fell in love with film. Is I grew up like dancing, performing. I loved performing. I loved the stage, and then I got diagnosed with a deadly heart condition um, called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. If anybody is familiar with that, and I got diagnosed right when I started high school, and so that kind of changed my trajectory of what I was going to do with my life, since I could no longer play sports or do competitive dance because I was at risk of dropping dead. So I had a lot of free time on my hands, and the cheapest therapy I could find was television. And I have to say, at the time, like, even though like years before, like Netflix was big, but like Netflix was like, I mean, it's like the biggest streaming service that we would watch. And so I remember like binge watching Grey's Anatomy with my sister, and really Scandal. And like I fell in love with Scandal because I liked like politics and I like TV. So I have to owe Shonda Rhimes is why I was like, I want to do this for a living. I want to make television shows. And then the addiction just got worse because you'll probably see that I'm the bigger TV addict, that I'll be like, oh yeah, I know this show or whatnot. Or even if I don't watch it, I can still hold a conversation with you and tell you who's in it and, what's the plot of it and whatever. So if I had to choose TV or film, I would choose TV, but I love both. And I still went to film school to learn how to make movies and broadcast television. Do they care about That's what I wish I learned more about TV, but that's fine. That's fine. We're out of school now, so. But yeah, so that's kind of what I started watching more, and then I geared towards acting because I could do, that. So then I did that in high school. So that's how we bonded on that, of being dancers and doing theater, and then being like obviously like nerds about it and being really into it. And that's when I fell in love with directing, was like because we had to write, like I like write and direct our own sketches. We had no budget for my performing arts club, so it was fun to like write and then to direct. And that's really where I fell in love and was like, oh, I don't care about being like in front. I'd rather help somebody reach their like biggest potential. And it was rewarding to be able to see people, especially people who'd never been on stage before, like perform so well and be so comfortable, and to be able to be like a small part of that to help them reach their fine potential. So yeah, then I was like, you know what, let's make movies and TV and see how that goes.
Yeah, I
But how did we
literally.
meet? We don't know. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, hold on. First of all, I will forever hype up uh, our professor Dave Myers, who was our professor for
Yeah,
history of motion picture. He,
best
first of all,
class.
he's a great professor, but also his curriculum. I love in high school, my subjects that I loved the most were history, English, and any arts class. So
Same.
like, because we had like different art classes. We had like basic art, studio art, advanced art, and then we had digital art. And
Wow.
then also like our theater um program that we had, which I haven't mentioned, so let me piggyback real quick. In high school, my high school offered, we had this it's called the sixth district uh like compact is what it's called essentially, and it's where a lot of other schools in our district hold um career programs. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word for a second. So like one school had, I think, like cosmetology and culinary. Another one had like mechanics and some other shit. I don't even remember. Um, and then my home school where I went to had a theater arts career academy, which is what TACA was, is what it stood for. And in that program, we basically so it was a 2 year program. Typically, students did a junior senior year. I have another friend named Hannah, so don't get confused. My high school friend Hannah and I did it because we were like, let's do it, but also let's not do it junior senior year. Let's do it sophomore junior because why not? So we did it our sophomore junior year, which I liked because in senior year I did like metals class and I learned to weld a lot more and do construction. So that was really fun because of the fact that I had one more year in high school and I was already really close with the teachers that did that program. So I was like, hey, I'm going to join your class. You already know I know this. I just want to learn more. So that was fun. But anyway, sorry. So it's a 2 year program. Your first year, you had. So the way our school worked was we had a block system instead of like, I don't know, bitch, I don't remember what school was like, it's
Like,
been a long time.
I mean, instead of having like all 6 periods, you
we
had like
had
3 periods a day,
we had
or
we had 4 periods a
8 periods.
day.
Oh, okay, so you had eight
So we
periods
had
total. There.
two in the morning, and then we had academy, which is like study hall. So we had academy A, which is 30 minutes, then we had lunch, and then academy B. Those academies were 30 minutes long, each of them, so it was an hour of study hall. And then depending on if you were a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior, you had your lunch at a certain time in that academy. um I don't know why they did it like that. So with this TACA program, in the your first year in the morning, instead of going to like, I don't know, let's say English and math in the morning, we had those like over 2 hours of theater. So in that program, we learned script analysis, um, acting for stage, acting for camera, makeup, costume, lighting. So pretty much every like. Why are you laughing?
I just kidding. This episode, we talk about how Anastasia's high school.
Girl, I'm almost done, girl. It ain't gonna be that long.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
um,
Uh,
sorry, yeah, no, basic like shit for theater. Let me wrap this up. Basic shit for theater. So that was either like technical stuff or like acting wise. And then your second year you switched it, so in the afternoon you had it instead of the morning. Anyway, Why did I bring that up, bitch? Now you got me off track. Now you got me off track.
I'm
I
sorry.
can't with you.
I'm sorry. I'm
I
sorry.
literally had a whole reason why I was.
No, you said you wanted to explain it, and then you were like, "This is what."
But for what reason was
we're,
I?
trying to get, we're trying to get to Dave Myers while you like film history,
Bitch,
and you're like,
what?
"Let me tell you." On my schoolwork. This is why we
Oh,
shouldn't have started this because we both go on fucking
wait, no, I
too long of a
remember.
tangent.
I remember. Okay, no, now it's
Go,
gone. Hold
go.
on.
No, go.
Now it's gone.
Go while I laugh off camera.
Hold on, girl. Wait, fuck. Yeah, this is why we typically have formatted episodes because this shit is all over the place.
So if you guys want to produce it and tell us to like shut the
And
fuck up and get on to the next one.
we'll take applications. You can send them to our email.
Right now it's a
Girl.
free internship, so
Yeah, sorry. So it's gonna be you'll just hang out with two crackheads and tell us what to do. Um oh, okay.
There's two cats here because I'm not at my house. I'm at my friend's house.
I remember why I mentioned it because I was talking about the classes I liked in high school. Anyway, I did that theater program in high school. It was great. But yeah, no, in high school I loved English, history, arts, blah blah, all that kind of stuff. So, transitioning back to what this conversation was supposed to go to, when we had this history of motion picture class, it was like a blend of the best of both worlds. Because we literally learned, as the title of the class was, the history of motion picture, and that shit was so cool because every week we talked about certain like decades in film, and like we learned about the studio systems, how they started. We learned about like like the
We learned
cameras
that
and stuff.
Hollywood could have been in Jacksonville,
Florida,
Florida.
yes,
That's my
instead of
favorite
Hollywood,
fun film. My fun fact about film history is that we
instead
could
of
have been making movies in
California.
Jacksonville. Thank
um
you, Edison.
no, we don't like that man. That man is a piece of shit. um but yeah, no, that class was great because every week we learned about a new chunk of time within film history, and then that week we had a movie that we watched. So every week you could see the progression of filmmaking, which I thought was really cool. And the artist is now like on my top list of movies after watching it for that class. The class is great. The movie The Artist is really good too. You should definitely,
Yeah,
if you haven't
maybe
seen
we'll
it.
dive deep into it one day. Yeah, The Artist, y'all watch it. It's a black and white movie, be warned.
But
But
it was oh yeah, it's a silent film, black and white, but it was filmed in like 2011.
yeah.
Like
To talk
it's
about when we went from no sound, no like, to talkies. So when they talked. But yeah, so clearly you could tell that we both like film history a lot. I liked history and English were like the subjects that I liked in school as well. Science was not one of them. Hence why when we get into the
girl.
science part of cameras and stuff, you're like, my brain, don't. I'm just kidding.
It's the science and math of it all, like the math of it all. I'm like, this is why I'm gonna hire somebody to help me with that because I have
Yeah, this is why I'm not a
no
DP.
idea.
So,
I
but
mean,
so we had that class because also our school was our semester was in a month, so it was kind of hard to
girl.
really get the full grasp of film history. So we always joke like, if only we could have more, I would have enjoyed like getting more in depth. Also talking about more of like the female filmmakers, and
Yeah,
we
that
covered
would
a
be great.
few.
And we had like
But
one professor that was a woman, but
yeah, that's
that's
fine.
another topic.
That's the biggest thing I have to say when going to film school, and people are like, there's not enough women in this industry. And then when I got, and the fact that it was in our class of like, let's say by the time we graduated, it was like 30 or something.
There was
It
4.
was me, you, and 2 other girls. And it was like, oh, now it makes sense. Because if this is a replicant of what's the industry is like, now it makes sense where it's like, there's not enough females. Even though there was other classes that had more females, but it was just so funny. It was like, that was such a wake-up call to me to be like, oh my gosh, there is so many men
Men,
like
too many
in this
men.
in this innocent. Even though we loved like everybody that we graduated with, I loved
Oh
our
yeah,
class.
no, no
They
hate
were
to if any of our friends
those
are
men were
listening.
great. Those men were great. Yeah, yeah.
No
But
hate.
so that was the first class we had together, and it was online. So we just saw each other's like names because we didn't have to have our camera
Zoom.
on for Zoom. And then this girl had a picture of her and her best friend. So I was like, "Who is Anastasia? Which one is the girl?" Because she decided to choose her profile picture with two people. So
Because I didn't realize that shit was hit to my fucking Google. So I was like, oh, now it's too late to change the photo.
But yeah, and I remember your thoughts on the artist, but yeah, and then it was after that class, so we met like January of
Hmm.
2021 is when we actually were like, hey,
We met in the parking
you're a
lot.
girl and in film, and it looks like we have the same classes. Because I
Let's
reached out
connect.
first.
Okay,
Yeah, I
hold on.
slid into her
Yes.
DMs
Just like,
first. That's what happened.
but let me tell you, some cool shit in the universe happened that day because I was also thinking of doing the same thing on that same day, but this bitch beat me to it. So when she says DMs with Full Sail, we had like a Full Sail like student profile portal thing
Like
where like
everybody has, like where you have like your school like portal where you can access your classes from. You
yeah.
can have like your where you can message other students in your classes. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
And so I went on mine too because I was like, okay, let me find this bitch. Let's connect and see. But then when I went into my student portal, I like had a message notification, and at first I was like, what the fuck, who? And then I saw it was her, and I was like, oh my god. I'm like, perfect. So then we just exchanged numbers and Instagram, and yeah, and then we
yeah,
met
we had
up.
exchanged Instagram so we could really see what the vibe
What the?
was. And be like,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
like, wow, this woman is obsessed with Freddie Mercury. Just kidding. I was like, wow. I was like, okay, I'm here for that.
No, yeah, Queen, love that band. But yeah, and yeah, we met in a parking lot. Not a random parking lot, a
Oh
parking lot of the
yeah,
school.
the school
We met
parking
and
lot is when we
yeah.
were like, hi.
And then ever
I
since
forgot.
then,
I reread those like a few months ago, and first of all, because I'm somebody, especially after like having to be in positions where, because everybody, all of our friends would be like, oh my gosh, like I'll go up and talk to strange. Hello, I'm speaking. I will go up and like talk to strangers. I don't care. Like, oh, you want to know a question? Okay, here you go. So I was like, I'm just gonna text this girl and be like, okay, sorry if this is like too forward, but there's like not many of us girls here, and I think we should stick together. And you seem cool, and da 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 da. So I
little did we
appreciated
know.
you not being like, yeah, no, you
I
seem
don't think
weird or
no.
whatever.
I also a little did we know that the both of us would be crackheads together. So it was
Yeah.
just a
The
nice
funny thing is,
surprise.
I reached out to you before we started school, but I never got a response back. So that's the funny.
What?
No, it's because when we had to do the
The
flipping
orientation.
dumb
Okay, the
orientation class, and I think this is kind of tells why, like the foundation of why we wanted to make films is because we had to write what major we were doing, why we were doing it, and then of course to kind of learn, the
about your
platform you
peer.
have to respond, to a peer. So there was like hundreds of like messages. So I go in there and I'm like reading it to see who I'm going to respond to, and then I see this girl with this like unique name, and I was like, okay. And then I read it, and she's in film, so I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like I already relate. And then she's like, hey, I want to make films. Am I allowed to say you're Serbian? Because you didn't introduce
Oh
that part.
shit! Yeah,
So,
no, yeah. That's
so she's like, I'm Serbian. I'm paraphrasing this really bad. We get shit representation. This is why I want to hear to change the representation. Da da da. And I was like, oh my goodness, like that's kind of why I want to make films too, because for young heart patients, we have like crap media representation where there's no stories about it. Like that's kind of what I can that's kind of one of the reasons why I went to film school is, to get better at my craft and to be able to connect with people. Really, that's like the biggest pro of film school is just connecting with people, like-minded people, who want to make movies and TV shows. And then I was like, yeah, I want to do that too. But because you didn't have to respond to the peer response, it was kind of like quick check off list. So I found it Okay.
Just keep going. It's okay. The cat can keep
I
meowing.
you can fix that in post, audio post. Is then I realized I was like when I found out you were in my class and I was like, oh, is that the girl that I like responded to her thing? And then I was like, oh my gosh, it is. But I didn't tell you right away. I think well I did like
Yeah.
2 days and I was like, I responded thingamajig. So
Also,
so
I
we bonded
love
on the lack of representation for our communities.
in this industry. Yes, that's 100% exactly what we bonded on, and we bonded on the fact that we both faint for no reason. So that's really fun.
Yeah,
Bitch, we were
that was
watching
fun.
Malcolm and Marie. I will never forget watching Malcolm and Marie with you on a laptop in the living room of my apartment, and Ben coming out every couple like intersection of like 10 to 15 minutes to see if we ever fucking finished that damn movie, because all we
And
did
we
was
did.
pause. We did, but we would like pause and process, or just pause and talk about random shit that had nothing to do with the movie. So that was
Well, it's because I was on a
interesting.
task while we were watching the movie. I was on a task for, you know, Heart Charged, which it follow at Heart Charged because people be thinking it's like Charger, Hearts Charged. But that's a Instagram community nonprofit that I run that I started with my sister to kind of connect young people who also suffer from any kind of heart condition or people who have loved ones who've suffered. So yeah, so we I was doing a task for Heart Charge on like something with like fainting thing, and I got sidetracked, and then that's how we went off too long. Yeah, and then Ben watched what like 2 episodes of Game of
Game of
Thrones in the
Thrones.
time that we like took to watch that hour and a half movie or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's a core memory for sure. That, and then the whole, oh my god, we were doing this one thing. So we had this thing for a class, and it was like you write a script, and I was lazy because I was like, fuck this, I don't want to do that. So I found a loophole, and well, it okay. I wasn't lazy. It was more so like write a script, like a short script, film it, edit it, and like submit it for the class or whatever. This is when like
I love
the
how I'm
entire
like,
other
what
class.
is
Hold
going
on,
on?
it's when the entire class, when you guys like coordinated filming everything. Remember, and you never got to yours.
Oh yeah, we did
That
our knockoff Breakfast Club. Yeah,
yeah, and a lot of my scripts, okay, like besides besides the show that we're writing, which might change. I might make one of the characters Serbian. Anyway, a lot of my
as you should.
scripts that I write are heavily involving Serbian people, and culture and all that kind of stuff. So it's very important for me to, um, in my scripts, have a mixture of English and Serbian, uh, because that's my life. So I want to represent that in any way that I can. So a lot of my scripts have or need people who are bilingual that can speak English and Serbian. And I was telling my professor that I was like, unless you can help me find some actors, because let me tell you, that shit was so hard to try to find Serbian people anywhere, bitch. They like live under rocks or some shit because they don't say that they're here. Okay, unless you're in fucking Chicago. I know Chicago has a huge influx. Anyway, so to my professor, I was like, hey, this is the premise of my script. I don't think anybody speaks this language besides me. And I even asked this professor, I said, are there any other, listen, I said, are there any other Serbian students anywhere enrolled in this school? And he said, no. And I was like, well, that should also fuel me more. I was like, this is irritating. How is there not? We don't not exist. We're here. So anyway, long story short, I was like, what if I just insert myself into my favorite show, which is Criminal Minds? So I was like, perfect. I'm like, that's what I'm gonna do. So I have a green screen and everything, and I did do the green screen thing for an interview that we had to do for a another class, and I just inserted myself into a Jimmy Fallon interview, which was great and so much fun. And I would do it again because now I know more on how to do it properly and make it look better. Anyway, so Hannah came over. Hannah came over to help
No,
me.
let's preface this. Let's preface this. we had been shooting all day because we decided as like a
Yes,
class,
yes,
like
yes.
we really didn't have enough time to shoot something on the side because we were going to class and doing all these labs. So we're like, hey, let's ask if one of these lab days, because again it was like kind of optional, if we could record. I think our teacher was just like, oh, you're doing stuff great, that I'll support that. So we basically like navigated where it's like, okay, you'll be this position on my film, this will take this many hours, da 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 da, shoot it, let's film it. So we had pretty much done like a 10-hour day, right, of shooting stuff. And then Anastasia, we had, I don't even think we ate or whatever. And then Anastasia's like, okay, like, can you help me? And I said yes before it, I was like, yeah, let's eat and I'll come help you film. So by the time we started filming, it was like 10 or something at
10
night.
p.m. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
After we've had a long day, and I didn't even get to shoot mine because remember I like shot it a different day because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, I'll help everybody else shoot their stuff. So yeah, then that will explain why my brain was
But it's also
not
both
there.
of our brains were totally fried because we're like, okay, because when you green screen and you're trying to insert yourself into a shot that has already somebody in it, bitch, it's hard. You have to really line up your camera angle to make it look the same. And we're doing all this, and we're like, yeah, it looks good. Like it looks
Yeah, she's like,
fine.
look at my what is the,
My sight line,
yeah, your sight
make
line.
sure it
You're like, make sure
matches.
it's good, and
It looks
I'm like,
good.
yeah, no, that looks great.
Bitch, you had
That
your
thought it
fake
looks good.
cigarette.
Oh yeah, I had my fake cigarette because I think I was using it for some, or maybe I just had it for my breathing exercises. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, so yeah, I'm over here like cracked out, and then you're asking me, and I'm like, yeah, that looks fine,
Okay,
and
and
then you
so
found out
it was
it didn't
shit.
work
It was shit, and I had to refilm all of that. But I got it
by
done.
yourself,
But
and you
it's okay.
realize
I got it done.
you're like, I do stuff by myself. I'm not.
I was like, you know what? Some stuff I can do alone. But no, the reason I bring it up is because so we wrap, okay, and we get all the shots that we need. We're like, this is great. Let's now we're cracked out, and when Hannah and I are cracked out, our go-to thing is ice cream. It will now forever be ice cream for me. And so we were like, okay, and where my apartment was, um, I so we were on like a corner between two streets, and right across the street was a McDonald's. It's 3 in the morning at this point, okay, and I was like, why don't we go across the street and get McFlurries? Like, let's get some ice cream. And she's like, okay, perfect, yeah, let's go. And then I go to my roommate Ben. I go to his room. I knock on his door. I'm like, hey, um, I was like, hey, we're gonna. I was like, hey, Hannah and I are gonna go across the street to Michael Jackson's to get ice cream. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, across the street to Michael Jackson's. Do you want anything? And he was like, you guys aren't driving anywhere. You're not going anywhere. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I meant to say McDonald's. And he's like, I assumed. He's like, can you get me a sweet tea? I said, yeah. So we left. And I got him a sweet tea and we got ice cream. And then that was that story. I love that story. That story is so funny to me
Yeah,
every
that
time I
explained
think
why you
about
were
it.
like, no, no. But ice cream is my favorite type of food,
That is 100% true. And you're more of a dessert
so
person too.
anywhere. Yeah, I like sweets. Even though sometimes I like a sweet and salty combination, but no, yeah, I always eat sweets. And it's like, what are you eating for dinner? I'm gonna eat the Nutella
Palachinke.
palanchenkas because the Nutella crepes. Yeah, I'm gonna eat that because that sounds good at 9 p.m. So
Now that we've got some random ass stories out of the way, so you know a little more about why we are the way that we are, I want to kind of talk a little bit about. I know you had mentioned Shonda Rhimes a little as an inspiration for you specifically of um, your inspiration and who got you into wanting to make TV and film. Is there anybody else um, that you can credit for that? And also, do you have like a movie or a show that you can watch on repeat that has been the one movie or show that really sparked your interest in creating and wanting to get into this industry?
It's a great question. So I can buy some time to think. Um, I don't know. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of films that I watch that like inspire me. I'm also somebody like creatively. Sometimes I like watching something like in the genre that say I want to create or something, and then that kind of inspires me to write or to like think of an idea or flesh out a character, perhaps. Um, but I think it all comes back. So like my taste of movies is I think I explained it well, is like, so my dad basically raised me on like Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Alias, like, you know, action, cool, like, you know, like those type of movies. And then my mom raised me on like, even though, okay, my parents are still married, but it sounds like they're divorced, but no, in the sense of like, oh, I'd watch this with my dad, and then my mom would be very much on old black and white films, like movie musicals, anything Audrey Hepburn or Catherine Hepburn, like love. So it's like having a mix of that. When people are like, "Oh, what's your thing?" It's like I have such an eclectic taste of movies that are like, you know, nostalgic for me or inspired me. But it all comes back to like when I was little, my favorite was Indiana Jones. Like every time I'd be after school, I'd watch it on, I think, like VHS on this like TV that my parents had in their room. I remember like I came home early from school one day and I was like, yeah, I'm watching this, or you know, and that movie literally made me want to be an archaeologist. Like I was like, that's what I'm gonna be. Like I love history. I was like, that's what I'm gonna be when I grow up. And then like mid elementary age, I went to a place which, if anybody's ever been, Wanna City, best thing ever invented. Basically, where like the kids run the town, and you got to do any occupation. I went and I was like, okay, let me play my, you know, archaeologist thing. And then I realized it's not like the movies. Like I'm not going to be running from giant fucking cement balls, or you know, like in these places, I may like get to go on a dig and like find like a little piece of vase if I'm lucky or whatever. So in a way, like looking back, I saw how much movies impacted me about what I wanted to be when I grew up, what I wanted to see. So it was like realizing the impact that movies have is really what inspired me to be able to want to use this medium to tell stories, because I saw how much like it literally, you know, it's like the people watch Grey's Anatomy who's like, I went to medical school because of this, or like that was really what kind of inspired me and got me. There are, I mean, there's like Harry Potter, I can always watch it anytime, but films, I don't know. I find myself, I think a movie's great if you can rewatch it. Like for instance, like La La Land, I watched that in theaters like 3 times, even sing along version. Watched it then with a live orchestra. That's one of my all time like favorite movies. Lady Bird, I watched 3 times. That was like one of my favorite coming of age movies. But it's hard because it's like sometimes I don't like to rewatch stuff. Like I like to keep it good. Like if I'm like, oh, I really like that, but I like rewatching it with other people more. Like if I like, I really loved Labor, and I was like, basically I was like, I'm gonna buy tickets. You need to come watch it, and you know, watch it with me or whatever. So it was more like sharing like something that I love, that I hoped other people would love to go and watch. But now in my other age, like I think there's more shows, like comfort shows, that I'll just like, even though some I don't rewatch because I'll like remember all the lines that I'm like, oh, it's not as enjoyable. But there's just ones that are like, maybe this is not the best critically acclaimed show, but it's just good enough to be comforted, you know, when I'm like awake at 2 a.m., not sleeping. So you're like, let me just watch this show. But I'm somebody like, for me, when I got into TV and started watching it, like that's why, like with Shonda Rhimes, is I was like, no, I was like, why is this good? And that's when I started like doing my own research and watching literally anything to be like, well, why is it bad? Is it the writing? Is it the directing? Is it the editing? And like watching films and shows not just for entertainment anymore. And that's really what changed in high school for me. And that's what got me excited about it, and watching like theory videos and all this stuff, just to be like, oh, why is it, you know, working? Why is it not? So that's kind of what, like that's what I enjoy, is like, ooh, like sometimes if I don't like a movie or maybe I'm not getting it fully, I like to watch theory videos, because then it makes me appreciate the film more. I'm like, wow, I didn't notice that, or this and that. I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan. Like anything from him, I love. And I remember like my watching Inception for the first time, And like a lot of my brothers really like Christopher Nolan, so that's how I like got into him. And then I remember watching my brothers like, okay, I'm gonna have to explain this to me, but I like the fact that it had to be explained to me because it was so well thought out that it was like, yeah, clearly I'm not smart enough to follow everything along, but the things that I can follow, I'm like really enjoying. And for a little bit, I was really into like magic movies. I don't like that sounds so bad. Like
Like
magic movies, but like
like
so like The
fantasy?
Prestige. No,
Oh,
like The
oh, oh, oh.
Prestige, The Illusionist, like where there's magicians in the movie, but it's more dramatic.
Uh-huh.
Like Now You See Me, but it was more like The Prestige and The Illusionist, and I remember being like I was a little bit into magic, not like anything crazy like that. Where it's like I know how to do like two level beginner ass magic tricks, but like the whole illusion stuff of like, oh, like I love a good mystery, like so like that's why I kind of magic of like, it was right there in front of you, how did we get that trick, how did we fool you? And that's when I realized, wait, I've been liking Christopher Nolan's film because I like The Prestige without realizing, oh, that was Christopher Nolan who made that movie. Okay, so yeah, what about you? Who impacted your life to make moving pictures?
Well, you had more of a very nice in-depth um answer than I probably will have. But my okay, I literally am looking at the poster over there. I have it in my room. Um, I growing up, we first of all, I come from an immigrant family. We moved in 2002 to the United States. So growing up, we didn't have a lot of things, but I do remember having a good amount of VHS uh, movies. So I grew up on VHS tapes and the old stuff like that, and people are always really like astonished that I know what the fuck a VHS is. I'm like, bitch, I ain't like I'm not that dumb. Come on now.
People
Um,
be forgetting like what I'm like. If I told you what year I'm born, you'd be like, "Oh yes, VHS was how you watch movies then." Like DVDs did not come out until like early 2000s, so it's like, yeah.
I don't know, girl. But I'm like, also, you have to realize we were very poor when we came here, so we did not have a lot of money. So we had a thick ass fucking TV from like the early 90s that if that fell on you, you're dead. Like that shit was so heavy and so chunky. I was like, what the fuck? But I have vivid memories of that TV, of the VHS players, of um and we had Hannah has seen this rusting ass car in my dad's driveway. He will not let it go.
Mm,
When we first moved to the United States, my parents bought this this like tan kind of minivan. Don't ask me what model make it is. I have no idea. I don't know. It's rusted off. I don't even know. I can't even look at it and tell you what it is. But in that car, I specifically remember it had like this like mini TV screen that will come down, and it had three. So it had like one closer to the front, middle, and then all the way in the back. So each I don't know person in the car can watch, and in the front was a VHS player. And every year, I would remember we would drive to Chicago, which is where my godfather and godmother reside. And we would celebrate Easter with them every year. So that was a yearly occurrence. So whenever we would drive to Chicago, we had a small stack of specifically Robin Williams movies. And so if there's one actor that I've always wanted to work with, may he rest in peace. I remember when he passed away. It was Robin Williams. From the age of like 3, I was like, this man, I want to work with this man. I want to talk to this man. I want to get to know this man. Um, but unfortunately, yeah, 2014, he passed away sadly. But anyway, so we had these stacks. It was Mrs. Doubtfire, Flubber, Aladdin. Let me name drop that movie one more time. And Steven Spielberg's Hook. And those were the movies we always rotated in watching. Typically, it was more so Miss Doubtfire and Hook that we would watch. And long story short, my favorite movie of all time and the movie that made me want to make movies was Hook. And Steven Spielberg is by far one of my favorite directors. I love all of his movies. Um, and I think he's just and he's just such a sweet human being. Like when you watch him in interviews and he's talking to the interviewer or even behind the scenes that he cares so much for his crew and his cast and he has so much respect for them, which I love because sometimes cast and excuse me, not cast, crew can get overlooked really easily because of the cast, and people think, which let me not, talk negatively about actors. That job is also incredible and deserves the praise that it gets. But I feel like the average person who doesn't know how, movies and TV shows are made, they just think about the actors and the director, which is okay. Not everybody knows all of that, but I think every single crew member is incredibly important, and the way he just treats his crew, I think, is really admirable, and I really love. And yeah, so that movie I can watch on repeat. Thank God it's on HBO or Max. Sorry,
Max,
they
Max.
rebranded. That it's on Max. And I might watch it later tonight because I need a fix. But every time, like that movie, I don't know what it is. Like I love the whole idea of, if you haven't seen it, it's about Peter Pan and Hook and all that stuff. Um, but the reimagining of Pan growing up as an adult and then forgetting it all and having to go, it's great. And I like at a certain point, like I will always tear up when I watch that. It's not a sad movie, but like it's so incredibly nostalgic to me that when I watch it, it reminds me of the good times of my childhood because I didn't have many of those. We won't talk too much about that.
The
But
same therapy, so yeah.
this is, I mean, just long story short, my parents are divorced. They divorced years ago. When I was 14, yay, freshman year of high school. But no, I mean, and let me not talk negatively about my parents either. My parents, I can't even imagine leaving your home country, going to a country you don't know. Um, so there was a lot of arguing in the house, and I think movies were definitely an escape for me, which is why I love movies so much, and I lean more towards movies. But I love TV. Yeah, I love TV. But movies is where I'm at, so I think you and I are a good mix of both, which is why we work well together. Um, yeah, movies were an escape for me, and they continue to be an escape for me. Same with books. I read a lot as a kid. Like I would go through a book every day when I was a kid, which I don't know how, and I wish I could still retain that. But now my life is too busy that I can't even read half of a book in a day. But that's okay. So yeah, sorry to go on a tangent. Yeah, Hook, Steven Spielberg, watch it. It's incredible. Robin Williams, Dustin Hoffman, Julie Roberts, incredible. Love it. Incredible movie.
It's good to know it's on Max because I haven't watched it yet. So
It's so good. You have to
yeah, I
watch
know,
it
I know, I know. It's on the list.
and let
So
me know because yeah, if I like if I ever talk about any movie, it's gonna be Hook. That God, it's so good. And yeah, Robin Williams was definitely like that one actor. And I watched his stand up. There's a lot of his stand up on YouTube, and I would watch his stand up and a lot of his interviews and everything. And so yeah, I remember growing up and I was like, I really want to work with him. He looks like really fun to be around, and feel like you could learn a lot from him. I remember, I will never forget the day. I was in a grocery store in line at the cash register when the news dropped that he had passed away. And at that moment, I don't know what it is. I felt such a connection to him as a kid. So when he passed away, I felt like something in me passed, like I lost something. And I was like, I don't like this feeling. So now, um, instead of working with him, I hope to one day maybe make a project that he would have, worked on and been a part of and keep the magic of movies that he made me feel as a kid to continue to give to other people. I think is what I want to do if I can't work with him. So, but yeah, so I want to just quickly brush up on let's just give more representation, bitch. That's all I want. Like the biggest goal I think to take away is more representation for people who are misrepresented or underrepresented in this industry. And that starts with people behind the scenes too. So, yeah, I think it's important. For me, also, I remember growing up, not a lot of media or representation for Serbian people. And if it was they were the bad guys. They were the gangsters or the kidnappers or the whatever. And you're like, girl, you've met Serbian people. You know, that's not it. Maybe some, girl, I don't know. But the majority of it is like we're so focused on like the culture is family and the culture is food and the culture is, you know, you've seen it. So I'm like, I don't understand where I mean, I get westernized media is very much against us. So I don't know why, but in my opinion, okay, nobody come at me, please. But in just what I've seen and what I have noticed is that, yeah, westernized media does not like us, and I don't know why. So we are always portrayed as the bad characters. So it's time to change that and actually give a good light on our culture and our history and all of that. And same goes for what you're doing. I think it's also incredibly important because it's important to have those conversations and have people um, be seen in this industry, and tell those stories. So
And I think we both realized like there's like if we want to see the change, like we have to be a part of the change in the
yeah,
sense like waiting for like, oh no, somebody else is gonna come or this and that. It's like there's people doing it, but even like, yeah, with my condition, we're part of like the disability community because it's a non-visible disability. And even in the disability community, we're not even shown like very much or represented in that. So it's like it's good to find like-minded people, but also realizing like that's why we went to film school, is to be like, hey, learn as much as we can and doing it. And I think the one plus, as you were talking about Steven Spielberg, is having gone to film school, I feel like I'm a better director, not because I like
did it all the time
learning
and
tricks to direct. It wasn't that. It's because we got to step in different positions in the crew, and I think that is like something like makes a better leader, is when you know like what the jobs are of everybody in the crew, but you also know like that job is just as much as work as the next position in the crew that that person is giving is just as much. So I think it makes you a better leader when you know actually what everybody's doing, and also even a better producer because you know like, hey, like I know a position you're doing, or like, oh, you could do it not for less, but like when you have to budget stuff or being like, oh, hey, what is this and that in it. So I think that's always something I'll like take away from going to film school, because there's always so like I researched big because it was like you like doesn't it's not like medical school where it's like I graduate and I get to be a director. Like that's not how film
no.
school works. So it's like, yeah, you necessarily don't need to go. You just kind of get, the terms and the stuff that like said, but doesn't mean anybody who gets on a film set and gets that experience, like that's really what's the most important, is the experience is going and making films. That's how you learn how to be a filmmaker, is you make movies, you make shows.
Yeah. And it's also like what you said with like dissecting like what works and what doesn't work, or like when like I would like watch a show or watch a movie or something and a specific scene will stick out to me for whatever reason. And I think I would just keep rewatching that one scene and be like, okay, this scene works because this, or this is what I would do if I was, in charge of this, and I would change this up. Or now when I watch movies and TV, my brain automatically goes to uh like shot types. So like I'm like, okay, they're holding on and over the shoulder for this long. Hello? Um they're holding on and over the shoulder, or it goes into a medium close up, or and now my brain um what's it called? Now I watch movies and TV a little more, not critically, more so, more educationally. Because now I pay attention if it's a conversation that's happening in the scene. I will make note of, okay, the only shots in the scene so far have been coverage. It's two over the shoulder, punch into, medium close up, and that's it. So then in my brain, when I write now, or when I um, plan pre-production, I'm like, okay, well, this scene is pretty similar to what I'm doing now, so I can implement, this scene worked because they had just three different shot types, or that kind of thing. So yeah, now it's like, now I take note. Here let me show you how much of a geek I am, because I I watch a lot of shit, but I also read a lot of scripts. And let me show you how many scripts I have right now. Hold on.
I love reading scripts. I haven't read in a minute, but I love, yeah, reading a good script. Also, it helps you too when people ask, like, "Oh my gosh, I need to write a script." I was like telling a friend of mine, I was like, "Go read scripts that you have access to. That's the best way to learn." Because then you go, "Oh, this is kind of the formatting. This is kind of the, obviously when you have like final draft or something that automatically puts it in where you don't have to insert
Yeah.
like this many inches from the margin and this and that. It is a lot easier to just kind of put your ideas out when you have a software that will automatically pa 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 pa
Do it
pa.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned, which I also really um like and I agree with, um reading scripts or reading things that are the same genre that you're trying to write, which is what I've been doing for a couple of years now. Because I'm in the process of writing a historical war drama film. So that's what this first Black Binder is. um it's
Nice
my
and thick.
I know. It's my script, my OG script. And then I also have the movie that really inspired me. The first one that inspired me for my original script was Saving Private Ryan. So I have that script, which is this one right here. So I'm not gonna flip through, but I have like annotated it and like read it through because I think it's really important to see how other people write it. Um, and then I also have 1917 in here as well because I liked how Saving Private Ryan had a lot more dialogue than 1917 does. Where my original script is a nice blend of both of them, where mine is very much dialogue heavy and story heavy. But then there are those moments of like action sequences and things. So I was like, okay, how do I write that? How does that work? So I have dived into both of those scripts and they're in here and I love them dearly. And then these two are the holy grail of my entire obsession of life, and I love them. These are Stranger Things scripts that I have read through. Um, People are gonna make this bitch has no life. But no, I listen. Also, this is how I learn personally. This is what works for me to absorb and be like, okay, but it's also like different writing styles can really help you try to figure out what yours is, which I think is important as a writer, to find what works for you, because some people write a lot of action lines and that works for them, or some people have like half a sentence for an action line and mainly dialogue. Also, I took the Duffer Brothers masterclass, which I'm so okay, listen, I'm so proud of that because I told myself the one goal I want when I graduate film school is to make enough money and save enough money to be able to subscribe to masterclass and do their masterclass. And I did, and it was incredible. And I can't wait to meet them in person one day and be like, hey, I took your masterclass and it really helped me. Anyway, I'm not gonna go through all these scripts. I have like, first of all, I really want the pilot to season 4. I don't have it. So Duffer Brothers, hey. Um. Anyway, this is my obsession: is reading scripts. Um, so if you have the means to find scripts that you really like, um, I would recommend reading them because you learn a lot. And I think the one thing that not that I disliked from film school, I think was more so I didn't understand in film school was um, when some professors would say, like you have, okay, hold on, why is everybody calling me? Hold on. Um, where some professors would say, you write a script this way, or you're supposed to write a script that way, or you don't have this many action lines, don't. But then also, it's a subjective. Everyone does it differently. Do you know what I mean? So I didn't understand why a lot of professors were drilling it a certain way, and then you took another writing class and it was the complete opposite, which I totally get, but also like I understand learning the basics of writing, but also you have to be able to have that creative freedom to mess around, without um being yelled at for doing that.
I
Anyway,
mean, yeah, it's
let's
good to learn. Like, I like that we learned like when we read the Screenwriter's Bible, like getting the basic of this is kind of just industry standard. This is it. But then, of
Mm-hmm.
course, like any show, like when you pitch, like when people say don't copy, even though when you pitch, you kind of have to say what your show or movie is like other movies. Like, oh, it's kind of like
Right.
1917. It's, so in a way you are supposed to be like looking to other things, not in a way of copying, but like taking what's best and showing like, oh, it's going to be something like this. But also with the writing, with like, it's good to know the foundation. Like I know the biggest thing was like, it's good to know the rules because then you know how to break the rules
Right.
effectively. Like where you're not like, oh, I just doing it because whatever, and it's like, oh, well, that's not like, the rules, or even though it still works, but that you're smart enough to know like, oh no, I'm not going to really follow the rules. But that's why reading scripts helps, because then you're like, wait, this is a script that got, you're like, yeah, it's not perfect to what you were learning
But
how,
then
but
it's
they
also
maybe they
like,
had their bit of voice in it and like stuff like that, which I think people gravitate more when it's like, oh, it has that writer's voice in it, like it has like a character of its own of reading it. And it's a lot more, I don't know, because when you go into it, you feel like it's a lot more like dry, like boom boom action, which is sometimes nice, like simple, we don't have to get crazy. But then some of the scripts you read, they really go into
in
like the
depth.
details of the
Yeah.
action, because even though some actors like Jessica Chastain is like, I
Nope,
was
not
crossed
doing
out the
it.
action lines, like, no, I do, don't tell me what to do. But it depends on, like for me, I like to visually as being like, growing up as a dancer, being a physical, I do have certain ways that I would like that character. Doesn't mean I'm not open to changing it, but writing how I would want that physicality of the actor. So yeah, there might be more action lines in my script, or more details in those action lines, and being like, you move from here to here and, and this and
And it's
that.
also
So
really fun to see like if there was any like creative changes that the actors did. So like following it, like with Stranger Things, like following the episode with the script in hand, and you're like, oh, that's different, or like this got cut,
mm-hmm.
or this entire scene changed, or it's just really fun. But yeah, let's quickly wrap up this episode. Let's go ahead and if you could give like three um like movies or shows that like represent you.
No, I was gonna, because okay, this is the thing. I was reading it like, what shows did I like from 2023? Because I'm not gonna get into that's too many. That's too many for me to be like, I really like this show because of this and that. You know me, I'm too
Okay,
psycho with
let's
my
do that
shows.
came out this
So
year.
I'm just
Let's do
doing what I
that.
liked in this year, because then we still being relevant to what people. And I'm not using any of the shows that we like discussed. I'm not using any of those because that's like a lost
We've already talked
opportunity to
about
talk
them.
about a show. But I'll start with the one show because I wanted to talk about, because actually the news came out that it got canceled, which is a little bit sad. I'm not like super duper like, oh my gosh, what the heck. But HBO has been, yeah, canceling some shows that I'm like, like, it canceled my Westworld, but it's okay. It ended in a way that worked. But it canceled Perry Mason, which after 2 seasons. And I have to say, because I like detective stuff, I like murder mystery, like that is a part of the stuff that I do enjoy. And it was kind of like, so Perry Mason was a popular show about a criminal defense attorney, like in the 50s, 60s. And then they kind of made this as like a prequel to how Perry Mason became that criminal defense attorney, taking these hard cases to prove, innocence of people. And it stars, Matthew Rice. It's actually executive produced by the Downey team, which is, Robert Downey Jr. And his wife. Um, so I was like in for it, because also in the first season, one of my all-time favorite actresses who changed the way I view acting, Tatiana Maslany, was in it. So I was already like, I'm here for her. So I'm like, I'm gonna watch it. But I also love Matthew Rice because I love The American, because I also love a good spy thriller. I would recommend that show. It is a slow burn, but it has a beautiful, great ending to the show. I do love spies and stuff. So, and I love me some wigs. So that whole I like the Cold War, like that whole, secrets here, them pretending to be Americans as their, Russian spies. But yeah, Perry Mason, I was a little disappointed because it actually, like, I thought the second season was way better than the first. We have a wonderful, the character's Della Street, which they kind of like, not like reinvented her character from the original, because she kind of just is like the secretary to Perry Mason. But this, they made her where she is going after a law degree, but because it's set like in the Depression era, like the 30s, like she's a woman, you know, she can't be able to be doing all of that stuff, so they don't view her. Actually, a Full Sail grad, somebody that I follow because she's a female TV director, actually directed 2 of the episodes that were really good. But there was a great scene in the second season with Della where she got to like actually interrogate somebody, cross-examine one of the witnesses, and it was such a beautiful performance. So, you know, the feminist in me who's like, yes, you better get it. And the fact that Perry Mason supports her in like being this, and the way that they run it almost as like equal partners the second time, because the first season starts with him as a PI, and then he ends up, because like one of his mentors that he works as a PI for, um, he ends up, spoiler, he ends up passing away. So he kind of has to step up and play the lawyer because their case is still ongoing. There's also some great, like everybody in the cast is great. They do a great thing of talking about like race. There's a main black character. His character is a cop, and then he becomes a PI, and they work together. And then you also have like the LGBTQ plus community and how they had in that time how they were secret and stuff like that. And so it was a great show, and I enjoyed it. And each season has a different big case that they take on that you're kind of like shocking. Like this one dealt with 2 brothers in the Latino community, but it was interesting because it kind of was based off that they talk about this stadium was built in their community where they came, and they just like fucking came, killed people, like got them out of their houses to build it. And then they had these a good amount of historical consultants on the show, and when they were talking about after the episode, they said that that was kind of how the Dodger Stadium was made. Was like that's actually like accurately. So they talked about the stuff that they played in and they used for it. And then one of this like cops, when you said the guy who plays the teacher, the drama teacher in Victorious, plays like this like mean, kind of like cutthroat. Like he has a good character arc from season 1 to season 2. I have to say they did a really good job of like combining it and having the characters like stay true, and what like kind of new things that they had to endure, or things from season 1 that affected them into season 2. But he's in it as like this like cop who's kind of like a little bit like he gets paid to do stuff that's not like, you know, straight on. That's kind of like the big thing in season 1. And when I realized it was the same guy, because you know he's like bald, has like long hair, but like in this
Psychowitz,
he's like
yeah.
shaved. I was like, this man is really flipping good, because I'm like not even thinking it's the same guy. I was like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my goodness. But yeah, so I really enjoyed Perry Mason, and I was like, let me talk about it because I don't think I'll ever talk about it on this podcast since it just ended season 2 like a month ago, and we
Mm-hmm.
just started this podcast. So I was like, I'll give some light on it
That
for
sounds
it.
good.
But
I'll,
yeah, I thought
I'll
it was
I'll add it to my list.
and now it's only 2 seasons, so it's not that long of a watch. So but yeah, like it was nice of what they were able to do, and of course they could have easily went on to a third season, but yeah, sometimes you don't make it that far for a show. So it's like a British show. Sometimes they just end after 2 seasons. So
Yeah, that.
and on purpose, just because like we don't like long running shows, we're just gonna, this ain't Doctor Who, like we're just gonna cut it here.
Oh,
So
Doctor Who, bitch.
okay, you say one, because
Um, okay. I am not a huge video game fan. I don't like identify as like a gamer or whatever. Like I'm not that into it. Um, but when The Last of Us game came out, that's when my sister and I bought PlayStations. We were like, no, we're gonna buy a PlayStation. We bought a bundle. It came with The Last of Us, and it came with like an extra controller. So we were like, this is perfect. We're buying this. And by we're buying it, I mean our parents are gonna buy it because we were like 13 or something or whatever when
you didn't
that.
have that type of cash flow.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't have that money. So anyway, my sister and I, if there's one video game we talk about, it is The Last of Us. That the game itself is so, it's fun to play, first of all. The story itself, I've never played a video game that had such an incredible story written. And Neil Druckmann, who wrote the show and the game, wrote the game and then helped with the show, which is why I think it was such a successful adaptation. Um, just has such an incredible way of writing and these characters, like you really genuinely playing this fucking video game, like I'm like crying because of things that are happening in the game, and like it's an incredible game. It gets you fucking scared at certain points, and then it has you laughing and it has you crying, and it's a great game. So play it if you can. The show, okay, was fucking phenomenal. And I know we briefly mentioned The Last of Us in the last episode with Nico Parker and the casting for How to Train Your Dragon. Um, but holy shit, when that casting came out, and first of all, when it was announced that they were gonna make The Last of Us into a show, I was like, okay, bitch, like this is like something that you have to take care of. Because usually sometimes I'm like, if they're doing an adaptation for something, I'm like, okay, I don't care that much. Like, I hope it, they do it well. But with this shit, I was like, okay, they have to do this well because I will be upset if they don't do it well. Um,
But
and
also,
then,
and also thinking there's not much, like there has not been great video game adaptations either.
girl, first of
But I
all,
think the smartest move was them making it a show. Because then you're like, okay,
absolutely.
so we will get more of this story, but because everything else has been movies.
Which, let me tell you, also another fucking game that I love is
Oh, except
Assassin's Creed.
Halo.
What?
Except Halo is on Paramount Plus.
Um, Another fucking game that I love is Assassin's Creed. I love that video game franchise. And they had the movie come out on my birthday years ago. And I was like, period, let's go watch it. It fucking sucked ass. I was like, what the fuck? Also, with a game franchise like Assassin's Creed, it should be a show. I'm sorry. Do you know how many motherfucking games there are in the Assassin's Creed franchise? Like, why try to cram it all in a 2 hour long movie? That's gonna be horrid. Anyway, that was a disappointment. But The Last of Us was not a disappointment. Pedro Pascal, I was like, okay. I was like, yes, we love him. And then Bella Ramsey, which I had only seen them in Game of Thrones. And so I was like, okay. I'm like, I, the thing is, I don't like to judge people when a casting gets announced. When some people are like, no, they're not good for the role, blah. I have no fucking clue
Because
until I
people were a
see
little
it.
bit iffy. People were a little bit iffy with the casting.
Yeah, but I was like, I don't know, we'll see. And they fucking served an incredible job as Ellie. Oh my fucking god, that show
But
was,
she made sense. I think just because she was like British, people were like, but
which I'm
like
like,
all the
come on now.
characters she plays, she's very. I mean, she's a tomboy herself. Like it very much fit, and the fact that the girl who played Ellie in the video games and then got to play her mom, which I thought was so beautiful. She was like when I met Bella, like she just
Mm-hmm.
embodied Ellie. So it's
Uh,
like she knew and she knows that character better than anybody. Like that, how well Bella Ramsey could embody Ellie and was very much just like easy way to access that character. Because I was gonna say, The Last of Us was on my like top 3 of like this year that stands out, and I hate like I mean I love a good thriller, but those clickers, I was like, ugh. I was like, this is.
girl,
But I've
imagine playing
never.
that fucking character and running
Yeah,
around the
no, I
museum.
don't play that stuff. I don't. That's why I don't. I have older brothers, so I like watch people play. But they like moved to the house by the time like The Last of Us came, and I was like, okay, like I'm into the zombie stuff. I played Call of Duty with the zombie, whatever that one was, Modern Warfare. I don't remember. Like we could play the zombie one where they come in and you have to like. Shh, but I suck at video games, so I'm more of just a watcher. So that's why I was like, oh, I can watch a show based off a video game. I'm used to that, but I don't think there's been a show where I literally physically got up and was like yelling and was like on edge. Like I was like, I haven't had like, and I enjoyed because we had like a little watch that I watched was like my brother and his boyfriend. Like it was enjoyable. Like you looked forward to Sunday night, which is like just what
Yes.
you kind of want on HBO now on Max. Like that you're like, oh my gosh, it's Sunday night. Like yes, because that's always their best shows are on Sunday. So you're like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like I'm excited to watch this. Like I have to watch it right when it hits, And every episode was fucking amazing, which is so hard in television every episode could stand alone and be like, this was a great piece of television. Because sometimes you're like, episode 4 or 5, that was kind of slow. Like, that's just like with TV, even with having a 10 episode arc or even like 6 or 8, sometimes you're like, it wasn't that great. But like every fucking episode was like a great ass watch. So
Yeah, no, it was great. Definitely my top three of the year. What's your next one?
I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. I do know, and I think it's the same. But like we said, we could go on a whole fucking 2 hour episode on this. But I have to say, like, then I think back to like what actually stood out for me, and it would be Daisy Jones and the Six, because we did binge it. Well, we did binge it again once, but like I would watch it weekly, and I was like I was into it, da da da, and then we were like, let's just watch it in 2 days again. So, like, for me, if I'm binging it a whole another time, it's a good fucking show. Because even me, I'm like, no, I just watched it. Like, it's fresh in my mind. I'll go watch clips on YouTube of certain things or go to certain episodes of parts that I liked. But this one, I was like, we could watch the whole fucking thing and be happy.
Yeah, no, that girl. I have been fucking following that damn. First of all, the book also is incredible, but also when it was announced, I was like, okay, let me keep an eye on that. And then pictures started coming out with like the actors on set and the costumes and everything. I was like, because if you know me or anything about me, the 60s, 70s era of music and fashion is where I spiritually think belong, because I love it so much. I don't want to talk too much about The Last of Us or Daisy Jones because I kind of want to do a full episode on them. So we'll brush a little bit on it, but not too much. But I think this is also an incredible example of a great book to show adaptation, because sometimes it's really hard to do book adaptations to movie or show, but I think they did a really great job with adapting it into the show. And it's just so different. Oh my god, if I could just show you what Katya looks like. I'm taking a picture and sending it to you. She's literally under the covers.
Hmm.
Oh my god. Anyway,
But
sidetrack.
like I
But
haven't heard anybody talk trash. Like that's the thing is like
yeah,
just reading the comments and everybody's stuff is like everybody loved it so much. The cast got along. The fact that like they weren't all necessarily like singers. Everyone was playing different instruments. Just the music was fucking amazing. So just yeah, everything.
I mean, are we surprised? Are we really surprised that I have this? No, we're not. Also, another thing about me, I collect vinyls and I love vinyl records, so I have this, and it's my pride and joy. One of my pride and joys of life. It's so good. So watch the show if you have Amazon Prime. Listen to the soundtrack. It's so good. The music, oh, whoa, is great. I think this album is a great summer album. The songs are great. The River, I need that song in my bloodstream. Like, I don't know what it is. Every time I hear that song, I just get like, I like reach euphoria, bitch. I like start levitating. But the show is great. Ah, God, and Riley just fucking, like, nobody
I
else could
hope.
have played Daisy
I really
Jones.
hope it gets. I really hope it gets the noms. And I'm sorry, Kajova, but yeah, she's amazing. Riley,
And
like
Sam and
nobody
Suki. I
else.
mean, everybody just did such a fucking incredible job that it's not want to rewatch that damn show. But yeah, no, okay, so this comes from my second one too because it's exactly the same. So
Well, I hit
um
3, even though I was like, maybe I should have said a movie because, but that just
I'm
shows you. I mean, I love movies. I don't want people to think, but it's just TV is just my first addiction, my first love. So
yeah. But no, I yeah, my third one is a movie. Um and you might know that it's going to be this one. It's Scream 6.
I knew it. Yeah. When I was looking up movies, I was like, because I enjoyed Scream 6, and I don't even watch Scream 1 or 5, and I went to watch it. I got my thing of 5, so I knew like everybody's connections, even though I kind of already knew it because I keep up. But I enjoyed Scream 6 as being somebody who like knew about Scream, but wasn't like that's my fucking favorite franchise. Da, 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 da.
That's
But I
me.
mean, yeah,
That's me. If there's any horror movie franchise that I love that is so ingrained in me, it's Scream. Like Billy and I love, like, that is yearly. We will do a Scream marathon, and that is binging every single Scream movie. We'll do that with Scream, Harry Potter, and sometimes Twilight. Um, but that Twilight one is more of like a guilty pleasure, and it's just fun to, especially with Billy, because it's whatever, it's fun. But Scream's incredible. Fucking Scream 6, I think, is not like better in my opinion than the original, but it is up. It is my favorite right now, excluding the original, because the original one is just so good and like such a cult classic when it comes to that horror genre. And I love horror, so um, yeah, nothing will beat the original. But six really fucking was incredible with the plot twist of who the killer was. I'm not gonna say anything. But also like the kills were just, bitch, when Annika's going over the fuck, spoiler, sorry, when Annika's going over the fucking ladder, bitch, and Ghostface is on the other fucking
Yeah,
side with the ladder in his
that was
hands, their
crazy.
hands, the killer's hands. Let me not assign a gender to the to Ghostface so people can figure out who the killer is. And Ghostface has the fucking ladder and is shaking the shit out. I don't think like any death will. They could probably top it, but like that death was insane to me. And then also, um, uh, I'm blanking. The opening of
Mm.
that movie with oh, I'm blanking on her name.
But she's from Ready or Not. Yeah, yeah. I can't
Why am I
remember her
blanking on her
name.
name? That's embarrassing. But that was good. And then yeah, the whole thing. First of all, also the lady in front of Billy and I when we went to go see it in the movie theater. Because
Samara
first of all,
Weaving.
what?
Samara Weaving is the actor's name.
Oh yes, 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 yes. Jesus Lord, my brain stopped working. Um, but the lady. First of all, this was the first time Billy and I went to go see like a new Scream movie together. Because when Five came out, I was in Florida and he was still here in Ohio. So this time we're like, no, we're going together. And we were like, we have to remember we're not in my mom's basement. We're not watching this just me and you. We need to like calm ourselves, you know? Because even though we've seen these movies so many times, like whatever. But the new one, we were like, okay, we need to relax. But when, spoiler alert, Gail and Ghostface are like, Gail has that chase sequence with Ghostface, which was fucking insane, bitch, because you're like, this has never happened in this entire franchise. And I was like, if they fucking kill her, I was like, no, 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 no. Like literally in my seat, I was like having a panic attack. I was so tense and clenched, and I was like, please no. But she's good. Period. Yeah,
And
that
they won, and she won the best like fight scene,
yes.
anyways, for MTV Movie
So yeah,
Award. So
definitely Scream is on my top three list. I know House of the Dragon came out last year technically, but that show, watch
yeah, it
it.
was
I
like
want
when
to
we're
do an
doing
episode on that too.
2023. No, yeah, of course, before the second season comes out.
But what is your third one?
So I had three. I did Perry Mason, then I had Last of Us and Daisy Jones.
Oh yes, I'm so sorry, bitch. I can't
But
count.
if you want me to do a movie, I was gonna say I really liked Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I have to say, like, that movie was a perfect ending for that, like, franchise, but also it's like I never laughed and cried so much. Like, this year, like, in the movie theater, laughing and crying, like, that's when you know it's a good ass movie. Because I like, I like dramedy, or, like, I like mixing, like, every best thing has a mix of every kind of, like, drama. You think of comedy and drama, like I want to laugh in a drama. I don't necessarily just want to be crying all the times, but like that, yeah. And then the whole backstory of Rocket, I mean, was so, you're like, even if you aren't a huge like animal person, which I'm not a huge animal person, but I still was like, oh. And then I'm like laughing my ass off. Like it was such an enjoyable time. And Guardians of the Galaxy has always been my like favorite of the Marvel movies because it was more comedic and stuff like that. It wasn't just basic action movie. So it was nice to, yeah, it's James Gunn did it, but he really knew that material so well, and he really was able to show those characters, and they have such good chemistry. Like, yeah, it was a great movie. So
Awesome.
If you want like a good Marvel, like I would watch Guardians of the Galaxy, like 1, 2, 3.
I need to. Everyone, I know I need to. Everyone says that is like what Marvel franchise I would like probably like the most because I'm not a huge Marvel fan. Please don't come at me, Jesus Lord. Um, but it's just not my cup of tea. But yeah, a lot of my friends had said like Guardians of the Galaxy is right up your alley. So, but yeah, with that being said, and we are running on an hour and 43 minutes, which I didn't think it would be this fucking runtime with us
No,
just
of
talking
course it
about
would be. Of
ourselves.
course it
But
would be.
of course, so yeah, that is going to be the end of episode 3. If you guys have any things, any shows or movies you want us to talk about or react to, or any news for next week's episode, just let us know. And yeah, we will catch you in the next one. Bye.